What do modern architects get wrong about creating these spaces that actually feel good to be in?
There was a shift from the right brain to the left brain. So instead of using the right brain, the part that we receive as intuition, we have started using the scientific part of the left brain, which is blocking intuition. It gave me the feeling that every time that I was walking in one of these temples or cathedrals or so on, I felt elevated, I felt peaceful, I felt more energy. Especially in the cell phone or in the computer, if we don't put some else or some of those attachments, it affects your brain, and eventually you get Alzheimer's. That's how bad it is.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Drop the mic with Jason Hunt.
Hello, Pier Paolo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason. I'm glad to participate in this show.
And where are you coming to us from today?
From Toronto, Canada.
You're in Toronto, so you're not too far from me right now. I always thought you were overseas over in Italy, but you're actually just down the road.
Now, sometimes I'm in Italy because I'm the Vice President of Biogeometry for Europe. But this time I am in the cold, in the snow.
How often do you find yourself going over to Europe? Is it quite often?
It depends. It depends when I meet, especially with Ibrahim, or if I have to oversee. So it could be, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a year.
And do you still have a problem adjusting to the jet lag?
Yes, always. But there are tricks.
Please share, because I just recently came back. I was in Spain at a conference there, and I had some of the worst jet lag I've experienced in my entire life. The day before I was speaking at an event, I was tossing and turning for 8 hours consecutively. So what are these tips on a frequent traveler like you to Europe? How do you overcome that jet lag?
Okay, first, walk barefoot on earth and hug a tree.
Serious.
Tree has roots, and it will connect at that place with where you are. So it will shift your timing and bring it to you. But also, there is a place right underneath here and there that you can press, and when it hurts you press again, and there is a point that helps you to reorganize your time zone.
Right underneath your armpits.
Yes.
You put your fingers in there.
If you try to find a point that is hurting.
Right. Oh, right underneath. I got you. Yeah, right underneath the armpit. Okay.
You press that for a few minutes, and if it's not passing, do it again. But that will help your rhythm.
Okay, and this will help. This will help as I'm trying to, if I need to get some sleep. This will help correct my circular rhythm and get me into the right time zone.
Yes.
Okay.
So those
Yeah.
are the things that I do. Then there are other things that I do, but they're biogeometrical, and you would have to have some instruments to do it.
Okay. Great segue. Okay, because I want to get into that topic today, which we're going to dive deep into, which is, biogeometry. Here's the problem with most local marketing. You're either paying for ads that stop the moment you stop spending, or you're waiting 6 to 12 months for SEO to kick in. But what if you didn't have to choose? At Merged Media, we build what we call the three-headed monster. Local SEO, Google Ads, and paid social media are working together. SEO builds your foundation and long-term rankings. Paid ads put you in front of people searching right now, and together you are unavoidable. If you're tired of paying for marketing you can't measure, we would love to show you what we see in your market. Book a free strategy call over at merged.ca. That's merged.ca. And biometrics, all that stuff we're going to get into today. But before we get into that, I just want to give some context to our audience. And you're working on a very exciting project with one of my clients, Kokomo Botanical Resort in Turks and Caicos, where we are building Casitas, which is a very exciting project. And it's going to be very much focused on biogeometry, wellness, really encouraging people to invest in their longevity. So before we get into that though, Pier Paolo, maybe you can give our audience a definition of what biogeometry is.
Okay. The name is composed of three parts. Bio, which is vital force, geo, which is the earth, and metric. So metric is the measurements of the vital force on Earth. And that's basic to our work, because when you can measure the energy quality of the place where you are, then you can use Mother Earth to give you the energy that is we call BG3, which is it's three energies, and I'm not going to define it because it's too high, but it's the one that is the cornerstone of biogeometry. And Ibrahim Karim, the inventor, has found this, especially visiting temples, old temples, the pyramids, and so on. And that's what I did when I was in Florence, without knowing about biogeometry. But being influenced by the Renaissance buildings, it gave me the feeling that every time that I was walking in one of these temples or cathedrals or so on, I felt elevated, I felt peaceful, I felt more energy. And I was always, when this was during university, so I was wondering how to build in that way. And I was asking the professors, how to build this kind of thing, and they were talking about proportions and so on. But the proportions of the building are relative to the place where the building is. So every time that you find a cathedral, wherever you have been, in Spain, in Italy, in France, Chartres Cathedral, for example, all these buildings, they have started on a power spot, sacred power spot, which is emanation from the center of the earth of this BG3 quality, which is a transformational energy quality that enhances well-being. And that's what biogeometry is about.
That's fascinating. And so, because you grew up surrounded by Renaissance architecture in Florence,
Yes.
What kind of an impact did that have on you, and did that inspire you? Can you remember the first time where this type of architecture had an impact on you personally?
Absolutely. Because we had to study for the university for 6 months, every corner of Florence, every cathedral, and know all the things that were there. So for 6 months, every morning, I was going out with others and going into these spaces. And for example, the first time I went into the Cappella Pazzi in Florence, in the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, and I felt, as I said, elated, in peace, and therefore I wonder what it was. But I worked all throughout my life for about a long time, 30 years, and one night I was invited to a lecture of Dr. Ibrahim Karim at the Dowser Center here in Toronto. He was visiting. He gave a lecture of about 4 hours. And at the end, I walked to him and I said, I have been looking for you for 35 years. Let's work together. Because I recognized that what I was feeling in these buildings, he had the key of how to reproduce them. And the basic was the cornerstone PG3. The power spots that are on Earth, which is a gift of Earth. And when we build or we restore houses and so on, we use that PG3 with shapes, forms, colors, sounds, and we reproduce it so that the building is not only well proportioned, but it is in tune with the earth and this energy quality that is giving it. And if we don't find on the property this, there are a lot of spaces where we can find a power spot, but if we can find it, we have shapes and means to reproduce that power spot.
So I've done my fair share of traveling, and I can recall times where I've been in Buddhist temples in Japan and in Thailand where I've just felt this feeling. I didn't even know what it was, this feeling, like you said, of peace. And at the time, it was like, oh, it's just this feeling of being in this very historical destination or landmark that was giving me this sense of peace. But really, the whole entire time, it's exactly what we're talking about, which is that biogeometry. Now, talking about that and talking about what modern architects are doing, what do modern architects get wrong about creating these spaces that actually feel good to be in?
In a certain way, and there are architects that are doing inadvertently that, but they are not respecting Earth, and they are not reading what is the best that Earth wants on that particular spot. For example, respect of all the vegetation, as we are doing in the Casitas. There is no old trees that is cut when we are going to build the 16 Casitas. The modern architect, and I could mention many spaces, even here in Toronto, addition to galleries and so on. They are star architects, and they do this design for being published. But they don't understand the angles that they put in. And I visited one of these a long time when it opened. And after passing 2 hours there, I said, I won't put my foot in this building again, because I was measuring the energy quality. I can measure it with special pendulums, and it's like, for example, this one here.
What is that? What am I looking at?
This is a special pendulum that measures BG3. You see there are 3 discs here and a point, and it proportions. Then if in the building there is BG3 energy quality, this starts to go like a helicopter, like this. But most of the time, this is not the case. Why? Because the architect has not found a resonance with the earth and has not built according to the principles which were established way back from Vitruvius, Palladio, Brunelleschi. You go on. They all knew that we have to build the shape of the building in a certain way so that the building, the energy quality of the building, rotate clockwise. on this hemisphere. On the other hemisphere, it would be counterclockwise. So what does it do then? If the energy quality of the building rotates clockwise, there is a centering effect. That centering effect produces a vortex. And that vortex is in resonance with the universe. So there is the calling of the universe vital force, which we can measure, to the building, and therefore achieve the well-being of the users.
Okay, let's speak specifically to the project at Casitas at Kokomo Botanical Resort. Tell us about that project and what makes it unique.
Okay, first of all, we have a number of 16 buildings, which is the build 16 is the famous golden rule, 1.6318. So if I have a quality of 16 buildings that there are projecting, emanating this PG3 quality, I actually not only have in the 16 buildings an energy quality that is well-being, but there is an emanation, and we have measured, for example, in a building here that I have built with Ibrahim in Toronto, we can measure about an emanation of 5 kilometers radius where all the buildings and people around, they are going to benefit for it because it's a critical mass, 16. So this specific project that we're talking about, the Casitas, is built using shapes in each one of the buildings. There are 2-story buildings, but each building, and there are 4 different designs of all this combination of 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and so on. And it has a sky deck, which is beautiful with a view of the sea and so on, but also it has a swimming pool that is healing because of the shape, like a kidney. But these buildings have projections, have 45 degrees projection. Let me see if I can show it to you in one of these. Can you see this?
Yes. Yes, I'm looking at the blueprint. The
Okay,
blueprint
you
right
see
now,
those
yeah.
projections of 45?
Yes, the 45-degree angles in the
Right.
on the walls. Yeah.
What those do, they create this energy quality that is going clockwise. Not only that, but this is the exterior, but inside the building, again, if you see, there are 45 degrees in each part of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And these 45 degrees, you see, the kitchen, 45, enhances the rotation of the building clockwise. Therefore, each building by itself, in any floor that you rent or you buy, inside there are again these angles that they make energy quality going clockwise. So the energy flows. And in addition to this, at every 90 degrees corner, we put a quarter round right there, so that the energy is not stuck on the corner, because in the 90 degrees of each room, there is a vertical negative quality, which is negative. So we avoid that, putting just a quarter round in there, in each room, and in each corner. There are other things that we do, like the material harmonization. So all the materials that have chemicals that may be not so good to use, we put it in a certain container, which is called a disc, and we harmonize each one of the materials so that each material, like the granite, the paint, the wood, the carpets, emanates BG3 quality. So it's a whole environment which you create, which is so positive that as soon as you enter into it, it's a well-being feeling. And if I can tell you of one instance of a project that actually I started with Ibrahim Karim when we met here in Toronto. It's called the Hansen Residence, and this residence has been published in the House of the 14th Century magazine, which is called Un maison où protéger sans habitants. Okay, like the house that projects, that protects the inhabitants. And that has been published in 2013 and in Montreal. And the owner had Parkinson. So, and he was given about 2-3 years to live. With Ibrahim, and I learned directly from Ibrahim doing this house, all the tricks. And with Ibrahim, we tuned the house to the owner, Paul Hansen, in the way that instead of 3 years, we gave him 13 years of life. And of course, his wife is still alive in the house and very well pleased of being in there. But this is one example. We have done examples, that we are doing examples down in Provo, and we are doing in Europe, in Geneva, where I have another office in Geneva, and especially in Florence and Italy. We have done all kinds of reconstruction because there is not much new buildings, but we harmonize existing buildings. And there are means of harmonizing existing building as well as doing a new one.
This is incredible, Pier Paolo. Like the fact that more people are not aware of this is beyond me, that your house can actually heal you. You can naturally, with this type of architecture, with biogeometry, you can create man-made blue zones of the world.
Yes, we can actually save the world. And I'm not stating, something like we can prove it. We can prove it because people, as you walked into spaces like temples and so on, and you felt it, when you walk in one of our homes, harmonized or done new or old and reconstructed, you feel it. You feel it. Every time that somebody comes into my home, they says, "Oh, I feel at peace."
Let's talk about because you mentioned a second ago with the Casitas at Kokomo, the liver-shaped pools.
Yes.
What is it about a liver-shaped pool that would give you a feeling of peace or relaxation or wellness? What is that feeling that it elicits? How does it do that?
You see?
Yes.
Well, the shape itself, as you know, the kidneys are very important for the function of our body. So when you bathe into it, And Ibrahim started doing it in Cairo in his home. He did this pool, and he did it in the shape of a kidney. And because, you know, the swimming pool shape is easy to do in the shape of the kidney, and you can be around and so on. Then he found out that every time that he was going in, he was feeling better, and he's, you know, the kidney is energy. It gives you energy, right? And regeneration. It's a change of all that filters of everything that you pass through your body. So every time that you spend 10 minutes in that pool, you are enhanced and reorganized in your kidney system. But, for example, you know, when we usually go around in the properties and we find power spots. When I find power spots, and I did this in Europe for a lot of time because there are many there, if you spend 10 minutes sitting on the spot, when you get up, you're new, because it clears you. That's the gift of Earth that most architects don't know how to use. You see, they are not trained. When I was in university, I was asking famous architects that were teaching at the University of Florence, which is one of the best in the world. They didn't answer, especially, they said, oh, it's a question of proportion, Vitruvius, and so on, but they completely ignored Mother Earth.
Explain power spot for me. How can one find a power spot or create a power spot?
Okay. I showed you this, and this, I walk around, and when it goes like this, that's a power spot. There is also another instrument. These are all instruments of radiesthesia. You know what radiesthesia is?
No, please.
Well, radiesthesia is, radi is radiation, aesthesia is perception or sensitivity. With radiesthesia, even this is a smaller pendulum, but it has 16 circles there. With this, I can walk around and find power spots. For example, when, usually in the summer or spring or autumn, I go for a walk in the park, which is very close to my place. I walk with those, and I find power spots. Many. Maybe in a walk of an hour, I can find 16 or 18. And I stop on them, and I turn around 8 times and 3 times clockwise and 3 times counterclockwise. And that regenerates me. So when I finish the walk, I have more energy than when I started with. And that's everywhere in the world. It's a gift, you see. So
where can somebody get an instrument like that? Where can we purchase it on Amazon? Do you have an affiliate link we can use? Can we buy it from you?
You can use it, but you have to know how to use it. So the key is to take a course with biogeometry, which is offered online. You can go on biogeometry.com. There is a list in many, many countries, maybe, you know, at least 5 or 6 countries. It's France, Bangkok, Italy, here in the States, like we had a reunion in Fort Lauderdale just last October. And Ibrahim is present sometimes, but most of the times when we have the whole thing, there are 5,000 people around. But his daughters and his son, which are dear friends of mine, can do this. There are 7 courses, 7 degrees, and at the end you get a title of practitioner of biogeometry. And you know then how to use these things. if you go on biogeometry.com, you can buy this one here. And you can buy this one here. But the thing is, again, how to use it. It's
So we have a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast that are probably thinking like, well, how can I make my office, more biogeometry friendly? How can I be in one of these, these spots? How can I create one in my office? What are some suggestions, maybe some simple design principles you can provide to those business owners that are thinking of redoing their office?
Well, the most important thing is I shape, as I said, in the corners of each 90 degrees corner, put a quarter round, because then the energy flows and it is not stuck. But we have a list of things that, let me see if I can find it, that I can make available to everybody. I can send you.
That would be great.
I can read some of these. There are about 13 or 14 lines. I'll go fast. First of all, you move your, in the office, you move your desk from the walls about 40 centimeters. Why? Because in the walls there are electrical wires. And these electrical wires, EMF, can really damage you. The other thing is, and this is something that everybody can do because you can buy online, this is the cell phone, right? If you buy this attachment, that attachment saves your life because you are always like this.
What is that? What is that attachment?
It's a biosignature.
Biosignature.
It's a little attachment that is going, and it has biosignatures there. And we do. Ibrahim Karim has done a book, Biogeometry, Biosignatures, and there is a whole section about how to use the biosignatures. But the important thing is that, especially in the cell phone or in the computer, if we don't put some else or some of those attachments, it affects your brain, and eventually you get Alzheimer. That's how bad it is. That's how the industry has has ruined ourselves in a way. But this is one thing. But for in a house, you distance your bed 40 centimeters from the walls, again, for the same reason. So avoid sleeping or having a mirror, because the mirror, when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's reverse, 180 degrees. So what it does, it is giving you a negative effect of reverse image. So the image is located in the brain, left and right brain. So it is switches. So that's one thing. On all electrical wires, put 16 dots or lines, 16. That will change the emission of the energy of the EMF. So you won't be subjected to the EMF, which is very deleterious for you. When we do harmonization, we put something on every TV and so on, which are certain L's.
So having a TV on all the time is probably not a good idea either.
Oh, especially in the bedroom, because even if you turn it off, it's on. So it gives you a projection of EMF, which doesn't make you sleep well.
Oh, so even having the TV in the room doesn't help you sleep well.
Yes.
Ah,
And if you watch TV, watch it from 20 feet.
right. So next time I'm staying in a hotel and I'm suffering from jet lag, I should just take the TV off the wall.
No, you should unplug it.
Yes.
You can unplug it, not turn it off. Unplug it. Okay.
Interesting.
Remove any magnets from the fridge. Remove metal objects underneath your bed, because the metal is attracting EMF.
So even like the bed stand, which might be metal, you shouldn't be using that kind of bed stand.
We put a number 9, a certain attachment, actually number 8 on the metal, but it's better not to have the base of the bed in metal. Have it on wood, okay? Which, you can find beds all over that don't have a metal there.
And you can find them affordable too. I'm sure if you go to IKEA, you can find some.
IKEA absolutely has that. I have it, and in one of the rooms I have an IKEA, and it's completely wood. Then never sleep underneath a pyramid cathedral room, cathedral
Ceiling.
Because from the cusp, like here, it comes down a vertical negative green, which was used in the pyramids, in certain pyramids, to desiccate the mummies.
Oh,
So you find yourself desiccated, in the morning if you would sleep underneath there, no matter how much you drink.
oh my goodness! Because that answers a lot of questions. I once stayed in a hotel in Amsterdam, and I was staying in the attic, which had a cathedral ceiling, and it was probably one of the worst sleeps of my life. That makes total
Exactly
sense.
that. It was desiccating you. But, if we do a harmonization of a room, we know where to put something, a very small thing, and harmonize that cathedral effect. See, for example, the pyramids of Cheops, which is one of the biggest ones, right? It wasn't dedicated for desiccating mummies. It was for the king. And the base is not a square. There is an indentation in the middle of each side, which makes it an octagon. And that's the pyramid positive. Like there are people that are selling pyramids like crazy, for furniture and so on. And they don't understand that those pyramids that are not harmonized, that means have an indentation in the middle of each side, is very deleterious to them. So everyone that is hearing this and has pyramid, put an indentation with a file or something in the middle of the side of each square. Right there.
Interesting. Wow.
So I can send you this.
Yes, please do. I think that's a fantastic resource, and I will, again, if you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, you'll just check the link in the comments section where we will give you access to that sheet. That's super valuable and a lot of little tidbits of knowledge that I never possessed in my life, and definitely is making a lot of sense to me. This conversation is making a lot of things that have happened in my life sense to me now.
I know. One time, a long time ago, 2013, we had an interview on Coast to Coast. Do you know the transmission Coast to Coast with John B. Wells, who was a wonderful interviewer like you are. And we had 4.5 hours, and we were going like crazy and so on, and he had to close off. But there are so many things to talk about in details of biogeometry that he was able to bring out of ourselves for the questions that he was bringing. And the station was bombarded the following day by thousands or millions of people that they wanted to know this. So I'm available, and as well as others in practitioners, especially of the family of biogeometry, and Ibrahim. And eventually you could interview Ibrahim Karim.
Yeah, definitely. Be very interested in that. I think a lot of our audience would be interested in walking around with you in downtown Toronto to get your feedback on even the architecture in downtown. I think it'd be such a great experience to be able to spend a day with Pier Paolo and touring around the city or High Park or wherever to find some of these gems.
It would be a pleasure. And most of it would be better in the park than in the buildings. But there are some buildings that are okay. They can be harmonized, let's say.
What would you say is maybe the most most impactful to you place in the entire world that you've seen that adopts these practices of biogeometry?
Well, there are several. But one of the few tops is the Cathedral in Florence and the baptistry especially. The baptistry is an octagonal building that is fantastic. Let's see, the Cathedral of, I just mentioned it before, it's close to, Notre Dame is for sure one of the best.
Notre Dame in Montreal?
No, Notre Dame in Paris.
In Paris, yes.
In Paris.
And is there anything in Toronto, something local to us, where people locally could get this feeling?
I haven't found any cathedral or temples here that have that kind of bijouterie. No.
So you have to hop on a flight, and with gas prices now, it's going to be an expensive one.
Yes. Well, what I can do is I haven't really searched entirely in the center of Toronto. Maybe there is some, a cathedral, there are some, because buildings that they have been done early, I'm talking about before 1800. Whoever was building it knew about power sports. And so they choose the location, and they built the temple or the cathedral, so on it.
So I think that's like Pier Paolo, we could talk for hours about this. We really could, because I do want to understand the historical aspect of it. Like, people before pre-1800 had the technology or know-how to find these locations, to decide to put churches and buildings upon them, and did somehow it get lost between 1800 and 2026?
Yeah, actually, it happened in 1700 with Cartesian. There was something in the humanity, because of reasoning, there was a shift from the right brain to the left brain. So instead of using the right brain, that is the part that we receive as intuition, we have started using the scientific part of the left brain, which is blocking intuition. Now, all the old masters, everyone knew about this and knew how to get the insights. Brunelleschi, when he was building the cupola of the cathedral in Florence, he was going on site every morning, and he didn't know until was there what to give instruction of how to build this. They don't know yet how he built this cupola. They don't know it. Any engineer can theorize about it, but they don't know. But he was able to get an intuitive prompting to say, oh, do this and do that. So that's the main. And Ibrahim Karim says that humanity is starting now to reorganize itself to the right side of the brain and intuition. But all the ancients knew about this. I don't know if you did. No, nobody knows about Palladio. The architect that is the most famous, Washington, D.C., is copying of all the buildings of Palladio. And he was famous in the 15th century. He is my preferred architect ever. And there are secrets that he received by his master. And he used also Vitruvius, Roman times, to know these secrets. And by generation and by knowledge, it has been given to all these people, that there were dowsers and so on, that they were using it to make people well and happy and prosperous. There is another thing. If a building is harmonized, especially building like office buildings, they are prosperous because the energy is enhancing your thinking and your energy. Therefore, you can come up with ideas that others don't.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so fascinating. I mean, and it's, for me personally, we're in an office in downtown Guelph. Okay, it's an office, it's a nice office. We're actually moving offices at the end of the month, and we're moving to the bottom of an Anglican church over in Rockwood, Ontario. And we're renovating it, and it's our own office space, but I'm getting very excited now to move into this new office, which has been a church, which I believe it's not pre-1800, but it's definitely 1800s.
It could be a very good one. You said you're in Guelph?
Right now in Guelph, correct.
Be glad to come down and harmonize the office.
Well, definitely. When we move to our new office next month, love to have you down there, and maybe for another chat when we get our new podcast studio set up and have a face-to-face podcast session instead of the virtual one.
I'll be honored and glad to see you again and to be able for you to experience what it means to be in a building that is harmonized.
Pier Paolo, if our audience has any questions for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
My website, they can check. The website is bg3harmony.com.
bg3harmony.com.
Yeah, www.bg3harmony.com.
And for those watching or listening, just go down to the show notes for this episode where you will find that website.
Yes, and they can email me, alberghiniarc@gmail.com, or they can call me, +1 416 540 6912, and I'll be glad to elaborate on this.
Pier Paolo, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with me.
My pleasure, Jason. Anytime.
Hey, thank you, podcast listener, for checking out that episode of Drop the Mic. If you liked that episode, I would love it if you went on over to your podcast platform and left us a 5-star review. And if you don't want to miss an upcoming episode of Drop the Mic, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Thanks again. See you soon.